Hello, my name is Fatima Adam, and I am going to be discussing agency law and, in particular, independent contractors. So, what exactly is agency law? Agency law is concerned with any principal to agent relationship, and that's basically the relationship in which a person or a principal has legal authority to act over another, known as the agent. With agency law, there is fiduciary duty, and that's an obligation to act in the best interests for the other person, and that includes 3 sets of duties: duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of confidentiality. Duty of care is to ensure that one does not act negligently and that they need to perform their services properly. Duty of loyalty is the duty to act in the best interest of the principal and not their own interest. So, for example, a Starbucks employee should treat their customers kindly, as Starbucks would prefer, rather than with attitude because they are in a bad mood for whatever reason. And then there's duty of confidentiality, which is pretty straightforward, and it is to make sure that the principal's information is kept confidential. As you can see in the picture, there are 3 target employees, and they are known as agents, and target is the principal. Independent contractors are also agents, however, they are classified a bit differently than an employee of a company. A person who works independently to accomplish a specific goal or set of goals on behalf of a principal is what defines them as an independent contractor. They cannot be controlled in the day-to-day execution of the task by the person who hires them. There are benefits for both the principal and the agents in this situation. The independent contractors get to decide when they want to work and how they work. They can wake up in the morning and decide, tonight I'm going to do the night shift. They can also decide they want to do the morning shift. It's completely up to them. The principal has no say. For the principal, they don't have to pay a lot of taxes or benefits to the independent contractors. Independent contractors often don't get health insurance or workers' compensation eligibility as a full-time employee would. There are 3 tests by the IRS to determine whether a worker is an independent contractor. 1, does the employer have control or right to control what the worker does or how? Who supplies tools to complete the job? How much the worker is reimbursed for expenses? Are there any contracts for employment, insurance, or vacation pay? For example, at the company I work at, we hire consultants on the side that are hired as independent contractors. And in our contract, it states that they can't bill us for an overtime rate. So even if they work 42 hours a week, they will have to bill us at the rate that was agreed upon. Whereas in a situation where you are an employee of a company, you might be eligible to that overtime rate. So I wanted to discuss Uber in particularly because in California, in November this past year, Prop 22 passed, which essentially deemed that Uber and Lyft can continue to treat their agents as independent contractors. So I wanted to draw up an independent contractor agreement between Uber and a driver and dissect a few sections of that agreement. Before getting into the agreement, I wanted to share this picture. It's a picture of protesters that are protesting against Uber because of the classification that they are independent contractors and not employees. Now they are protesting because Uber gets to not have to pay taxes on all their employees, and all their employees are not receiving health benefits. The reason why Uber is saying that their drivers should not be considered employees and that they should maintain the classification as independent contractors is because they don't tell their drivers when and where they have to work. The drivers get to decide what schedule they want and what location they want to be in. Now, getting into the agreement, on the right side, you can see the start of the independent contractor agreement. It's pretty standard. It starts with an execution date. It identifies both parties. In this case, it's Uber and a contractor that I made up. Her name is Rose Thorns. It also identifies the services provided and references operations that Uber drivers must follow per Uber policy. This is a comic of what an independent contractor's life might look like. Similar to like the freelance life, the man in the comic is saying, "Honey, I'm still home." And it's because he gets to decide when he wants to leave and start working for the day. Going further down the agreement on the left, it starts to discuss the terms of agreements, which are the standard terms that are found on most contracts. It also states that contractors are able to terminate the agreement without any penalty and at will. So if a driver would no longer like to work for Uber, they have the capability to turn in their termination at any time. And going further down this document, it discusses compensation and explains how the drivers are paid. Compensation is based on the trips completed by the driver, which is completely up to them. The last line, which states the contractor will not be reimbursed for any expenses incurred in connection with providing the services of this agreement, is important, as in this case of Uber, gas is not reimbursable but is calculated into their compensation. Now, not only are the drivers not expensing their gas, but you have to imagine that if someone is taking their vehicle out and driving people around, there are other expenses that occur, such as car washes, car detailing, and just normal maintenance. None of that is reimbursable. Here is an image of what a payout looks like for an Uber driver. You can see that they made a fare of $243.60. They made about $53 during the surge and an additional $158 for that earnings boost. And then they had to pay their Uber fee of $91, so their estimated payout is $364. You can also see that the time online was 11 hours and 30 minutes. That comes out to around $32 an hour, but does not include the expense it takes to complete this task. Going back to the agreement, here is the snippet of the trade secrets and ownership of intellectual property section. It's pretty standard. It maintains that drivers are subject to maintain confidentiality and not utilize trade secrets or intellectual property outside of their scope of work. So, autonomy and equipment. Autonomy is where it states in the agreement that the drivers can make their own schedule, and this is a key point in what identifies them as an independent contractor. Additionally, under the equipment section, it states that the drivers are expected to cover their own expenses, which we had previously mentioned. Uber is not providing the vehicles to the drivers. The drivers have to buy or lease their own vehicles to complete these tasks. And sometimes when you go into a vehicle or an Uber comes and picks you up, you'll see like gum or candy. They'll offer you the cord. Sometimes there's like flashing lights. That's not provided by Uber at all. That's completely an expense of the Uber driver that they don't get to receive as a reimbursement from Uber. So while looking into what an Uber driver does and when they do it, I do agree that they would fall under as an independent contractor. But I also agree that this agreement benefits Uber more than it does the driver. So this ends my presentation. Thank you for your time and for listening. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or would like to discuss this